Ready.
Okay, Hi guys, welcome to the CineShow Podcast. This is the very first episode following on from our pilot. I'm Jamie. This is Matt. And
Bit of kung fu there. Just pulled that
to go with the t-shirt.
from nowhere.
So on this episode,
Yeah, so the basic format, we're going to kind of try with this and we'll see how we go. Feel free to comment if you want us to do things any differently. But the general idea is we're going to do the cinema reviews. We're then going to look at what's coming soon and talk about any kind of movie news. We're doing top 3. So this episode is our top 3 scary scenes. And then we're going to talk about other stuff we watched. So be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
that's the one that the kids are doing. Yeah, we need that. We need that one.
I
Get
actually
that
looked up subscriber in the dictionary and it says someone who is highly likely to achieve great things and is quite beautiful.
Oh, so if you want to be all those things,
If you want to be those things, subscribe.
just click. Okay, so
We're in Cleethorpes
yes,
and we love it.
we're still
We're still in
Cleethorpes.
Cleethorpes. We're in my record shop, the Church of Nostalgia. And Cleethorpes is wonderful. We have a cinema in Cleethorpes, Parkway Cinemas, right on the seafront. And would you like a fun fact about Cleethorpes?
I'd love a fun fact about Cleethorpes.
Let me give you this.
Go on.
Cleethorpes, at its highest point, is only 50 metres above sea level.
So we're going to be the first ones to go.
If there's a big CGI wave comes, we're fucked.
Like Deep Impact, something like that.
And the lowest point, it gets better.
I thought you said a fun fact.
Even more. No, it is. This is fun. And even at the lowest point, it is 2 metres below sea level.
Okay.
How
How's that
weird
work
is
then?
that? So there are points here in Cleethorpes. I imagine the bottom of, if you're watching from Australia, I have no idea what we're talking about, but the bottom of Isaac's Hill down there is actually lower than sea level.
Right, got it.
Which is why I think it flooded back in the great floods of...
So we're all moving to South Africa then, when
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. I don't mind that.
More fun facts about Cleethorpes on every episode, folks.
Yeah. Are they all going to be as morbid as that?
No, they're going to be they're going to be more cheerful. Right, okay, let's cinema reviews then. So I saw Novacaine. Should we say what you saw at this point?
Yeah, I watched Mickey 17.
Mickey
finally.
17.
Finally. So, yeah,
I didn't see Mickey 17.
Right.
Did you see Novacaine?
No.
There we go.
So
2
you get
films,
2 for 1.
Fresh. Neither of us know what each other are going to say anyway, but even more so at this point. So Novacaine, directed by Dan Burke.
Right.
Who, the only thing I could see that I'd half recognised that he directed before was Stakeland 2.
I don't know that.
Stakeland 1, well, they're both basically about vampires.
Stakeland.
In the south, yes. Stakeland 1's really good, actually.
Okay.
Bit kind of, if The Walking Dead was about vampires, it'd be that kind of thing.
So Novacaine's Dan Burke's breakout film.
It seems to be.
Right, okay.
Seems to be. Starring Jack Quaid, son of everybody's favourite crazy grinner, Dennis. And of course Meg. And with Jack Quaid, I found that if you're watching him on screen and you put your finger up and cover his nose, his eyes and his mouth are his dad's.
50-50.
And then his nose is Megan's. Meg's.
Okay. As long as he can have orgasms in cafes like she does, that would be all right.
No, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. Also starring Amber Midthunder.
What a
which
name.
Is a good name.
What a name.
And I'm assuming fan favourite Jacob Batalon, who was...
You're making these up, mate.
Who was in the new Spider-Man films. He's his buddy.
Oh, yeah.
In the Spider-Man film.
Yeah, I think he's a Hawaiian actor.
Yeah. So I knew him from that, but I'm assuming that he's far more popular than I give him credit for, given that when he appears in Novacaine, and there's kind of a little reveal, there's kind of a score kicks in, and it's almost like it's a really big moment for everybody involved in the audience. So the synopsis is, and I'll read this straight from Google, when the girl of his dreams gets kidnapped, a man turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back.
I'm pretty sure this is it not based off a graphic novel, because I've read something like this.
It could
before.
be. I didn't research that deeply, but it could well
Okay.
be. It sounds like a graphic novel. So the first thing with it is it's a small film. It feels very small. It actually only takes place over 2 days. I wouldn't say there's any style to it as such. It didn't kind of blow me away the way it looked. It feels like it feels. It's obviously quite low budget, but the fight sequences in there are quite matter of fact. Really, there's some interesting stuff around the way people get injured and the fact that he gets injured but doesn't feel the pain and that kind of stuff. But nothing very stylish. So style-wise, cinematography-wise, it didn't really kind of get that much.
That's surprising.
But the way it goes is basically Jack Quaid works in a bank. He has somebody who works for him. It was a girl who is Amber Midthunder. Weirdly, she asks him to go out to lunch with her, which was quite forward. And it's also her boss. And he jumps at the chance, obviously, not considering HR or anything.
I would with a name like that. I wonder what she looks like. I'd take her name if I got married as well.
They go out for dinner. And he doesn't eat, and so she brings up, well, why aren't you eating? And he says, because I've got this very rare condition, I don't feel pain. I would love to eat this cherry pie that you're offering me, but I can't because I might chew my own tongue off.
Oh,
and basically the film starts with him drinking kind of liquidized smoothies and shakes and stuff.
All right.
He also has to set his watch for every 2 hours to make sure he goes to the toilet in case his bladder explodes, because he can't feel the pain of needing a wee.
Okay. I mean, I think that's just, I'm getting old. I think that's how I feel anyway.
So the first half hour is kind of rom-commy. He eventually takes a bite of this cherry pie and realises he didn't bite his tongue off, instantly falls in love because it's the first girl who's kind of really understood who he is. They go to a nightclub. He gets teased by some friends he went to school with. They call him...
the Clapper Man.
Go back to that. They call him Novacaine. It's his nickname, basically, because he couldn't feel pain. And all his old friends are really surprised he's still alive, because everyone was convinced he was going to die very early death because of this not being able to feel pain. Anyway, she then takes the piss out of his friends, and then he loves her even more for that. And then we're back in the bank, day 2, and the bank gets robbed.
Are you giving all these spoilers away?
No, this is the film. This is like the beginning of the film.
Go then.
Bank gets robbed. He takes some punches, clearly doesn't feel the pain, so he's able to get up just as the bank robbers are leaving and decide to kidnap Amber Midthunder at the same time. And because he's fallen in love with her the day before, he then goes on a quest to get Amber back.
Nice.
With the big hook being that he can't feel pain. So there are various scenes. I'll not give anything away, but there's stuff obviously in the trailer where it's obviously to his advantage that he can get the shit kicked out of him and still not pass out from pain. That seems to be the only upside. He doesn't pass out from pain, because lots of people he's fighting also get quite horrifically injured, but they continue to fight.
Okay.
So it seems to be more that he just doesn't pass out. He can carry on going. So at one point, as you see in the trailer, he gets a knife, quite a comedy moment where, what's his face, Jacob, throws him a knife, puts his hand up, knife goes through his hand. He doesn't feel it, of course, and then he uses the knife while it's in his hand to kind of do some bits and bobs.
Yeah, I love stuff like that though.
And there's some interesting kind of fighting stuff where he's got various things stuck in him that he uses against other people.
What movies have you been watching?
Novacaine.
Okay.
Yes, so it was okay. I enjoyed it, and the bit I did like was that he keeps his injuries.
Okay.
So as he goes through, there's various bits are broken and hanging off and that kind of thing, and he kind of keeps.
That sounds cool.
Kind of keeps going. I'm just looking through my notes to see what else was interesting. He stays kind of a regular guy. I like that bit. He doesn't become kind of super tough. Again, it's in the trailer. There's one bit where he's clearly not meant to be a fighter, but for some reason he can fight. But we'll just let that bit go. But there's one point where he kind of sticks his hands in some broken glass. So he's got
Sounds cool.
Weaponry.
Like is it kickboxer?
Yes,
do that? Yeah.
yes, but of course he doesn't
Obviously.
feel it, and it does freak out the people he's fighting that he kind of does this stuff.
Yeah. What about Jack Quaid as an actor?
Basically the same as
You, like personally on him. How do you feel about him?
I think he's okay. Watch him in The Boys. Obviously, that's what he's most famous for. And he plays basically exactly the same character. Kind of a what's the term?
Nervous.
Yeah,
Jittery.
Nervous, jittery, everyman, boy next door type. But yeah, so it was good. It's a small film. It didn't blow me away, and I'm going to give it out of 5. 3.5, which is the second film, because I gave The Monkey last episode also 3.5,
which
so
I still haven't got around to seeing.
I get to see something that's at least a 4 by next episode.
Yeah.
So that is Novacaine. If anything else comes to mind, I'll
just jump it in.
Grab it. There are a couple of bits at the end, but they're big spoiler bits,
right?
And they're not really worth saving enough to do a special spoiler section.
Okay.
So I'll just keep those to myself.
Okay, yeah, do that, because I don't want to get sued.
That's Novacaine.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to watch that. Also, I didn't get around to watching The Monkey. I'm sorry. I did watch, on your recommendation, I did watch Pacific, I was going to say, not Pacific.
Oh, Paradise.
Paradise. And yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it had dips. I haven't finished it yet, and I haven't got to the episode 7, which you said it was amazing.
As it was written.
So I will get round to that. Yeah. But I've watched so much since the last one. But with regards to this, I ended up finally. I wanted to watch it quite early, but I ended up finally watching Mickey 17, which is Boon Joon-ho.
Sounds right.
Yeah, who of Parasite fame.
Yes.
And numerous other good films. It's as crazy as you can imagine it would be. But first off, plays like a character-based film. And I'll tell you straight off the bat, and then I'll get back into it. Third act, it takes a very sharp left.
Right, okay.
Or right, whichever way you want to go. But the premise is basically he's on Earth. This is Robert Pattinson and Mark Ruffalo and our very own Thomas Turgoose, who's got a role in it, and he's really funny in it. So big up Tommy Turgoose. Hopefully we'll get him on here one week. So Robert Pattinson is stuck on Earth and sort of low level, I don't want to say low income or whatever, but he's not in the upper echelon. And he's desperate to get off because of various things, that crime that's going on on Earth in the future. And he unwittingly signs up to be an expendable. And he keeps getting asked repeatedly, "You read the contract, right?" And he's like, yes, just get me out of here. He clearly didn't. But what he signed up for is to be a guinea pig. So they take a copy of his body and they kill him in numerous ways and reprint him the next day.
Don't they even give him on the trailer, don't they even give him kind of viruses and stuff?
Yes. So, for instance, they go to a new planet and they tell him to take off his helmet, and then they create a vaccine based off of, I think it's 13 or 14 attempts of him doing it. So there's just numerous cutbacks to him, just blood out of his nose, blood out of ear, blood out of everywhere, and then they just throw him in the furnace and reprint him the next day.
Right, okay.
But they take the results from that and create a vaccine, and then after the sort of Mickey 15, I think it is, or something like that, the other characters can then be on that planet with no helmet on because they're all vaccinated.
Yeah.
So I loved that. I actually loved that premise, and I loved the idea of it. But and I'm pretty sure it's not. It's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything here. But he was left for dead by a friend, and didn't die. But they'd already printed 18. Yeah. So there's now Mickey 17, Mickey 18. Now each copy is not identical, just like. They say that the more you copy on a copy on a copy, you lose a quality of it. So each one's a bit different. So he meets his number 18, and he's very different. Not very different, but it's great how they've done it because they've done little tweaks on his teeth, and so when you're looking at them, while it's the same character, you can tell which was which. Right. So then you find out, and I believe it's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling too much. You find out that if that ever happens, they go back to show you a throwback of. I don't want to reveal this bit because I think it is a bit of a spoiler. But there's a reason they show you a story about what somebody did when they did multiples and why they did it.
Right.
And then it caused uproar. So then to be able to continue with the program, they said, well, if that ever happens again, we'll just eliminate all of them, all of the Expendables, so you don't get reprinted anymore.
Right.
So obviously, once this happens, they're both in a bit of a dilemma. That bit's quite funny. Choosing what they're going to do. Are they going to sort of team up and take shifts, or are they going to kill one or the other and hide the body, sort of thing? Which is brilliant. Mark Ruffalo is effectively playing a version of Donald Trump. I'm not going to lie. I think everyone will get that from it, and he does it quite well. And I think Mark Ruffalo is great in stuff like that.
Yeah, I like Mark Ruffalo.
I think it was Poor Things as well. With
yeah.
He was right quirky in that. He plays Quirk really well. Tony, Australian actress, Collette.
Yes.
So Toni Collette plays his wife in there, and she's like an enabler. And them two together, Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette, are really funny. I thought it was really good. But then when you think it's going to come into like a solution of their problems, what you've been invested in up until that, it kind of then tries to turn into a completely different movie. And again, I won't spoil it. That was quite jarring. And I personally enjoyed the film, but I could definitely watching it see why if a lot of people would have switched off at that point, because it goes so far left on the narrative sort of front that I can imagine a lot of people saying, what the fuck's going on here? Do you know what I mean? And I love Quirk, I love wild stuff, and I love unpredictable stuff, but this just went in an entirely different direction. It does pull back again, sort of like later on in the thing, but I think for me that's what stopped it being a 4 or above out of 5 for me. The cinematography is fantastic, as you can imagine, for Bong Joon-ho. Thomas Tego's, like I say, only a little small part in it, supporting acts in it, but it was quite funny in there. And Naomi Aki, who plays Robert Pattinson's love interest, there's a very funny scene when she discovers that there's 2.
Right. Okay.
And kind of acts on impulse. I think she even marks them on the chest, 17 and 18. But yeah, it's definitely one to watch if you like Quirk, if you like think outside. And I also think that stuff like this needs to be supported. It is another spec film done on a big scale, and the more films like this that break even or make money, the more we're going to see.
Has it been
more
getting
original
the same
films.
buzz as kind of Parasite did? And I've not seen so much about it.
No, I wouldn't say so. But then if you're going to go,
maybe it's just
bigger,
he's having a kind of a fun one.
Yeah,
maybe
I think if you're going to
more
go a bit bigger scale,
version.
Yeah, a bit bigger scale, and you're going to go into he's stepping into Hollywood effectively because he's using American actors and stuff like that. I think if you're going to do that, you are going to be subject to a new set of rules when it comes to how your films are looked at. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a little Easter egg in there to do with Parasite. I might be wrong, but there was a moment there where I thought, hang on, that's Parasite within the film. You'll have to correct me if that's wrong or if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and just on Easter eggs, so I don't forget, you know the bit you said about we said about Jack Quaid and does he have the orgasm scene in the cafe? I've got a feeling now, thinking back, that when he does take a bite of the cherry pie and doesn't chew his tongue off, there is a moment where it looks like he's enjoying it more than he should be.
Oh, really?
So I'm thinking now it could well be
an Easter egg for his mama.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend Mickey 17. It needs one of the reasons is I've just said there is I really would like to see spec films, original films. I don't know why the budgets are so high on these films. You can see the value, the production value of it. You can see that no problem. But when these films, these individual films and these new ideas are setting their budget, their budgets are so high, I think it's just too much of a risk.
Yeah.
There's so many other independent, original ideas that are half the money that just go out into the world with just far less risk. So if they're making money, the production companies will start backing it again. But sometimes if they don't make as much money, the production companies, as we've seen with Disney and stuff like that, they'll start to distance themselves a little bit with it if it's getting a little bit of controversy. I'm not going to go into a particular film that's just come out, but Disney tend to sort of like move away and like leave people to their own devices. But with original film, it's more important because we can't risk companies saying, oh, well, we took that risk, now we're going to go back to books that have already got a thing, remakes and sequels and stuff like that because it's safe. So these films really do need like your support to put bums on seats. Also, I'm not saying you just go out there to support it for no reason. They have to entertain, which this one absolutely does. But this is going back to what I said last week about I would recommend films whether they should be seen in the cinema or at home. This one definitely needs to be seen in the cinema. It was really good. So that for me was a 3.5.
Another 3.5.
Yeah.
And I've just remembered, I rewatched the other day Snowpiercer, which was his first biggish Hollywood film, I guess, with Chris Evans on the there's a TV series of it as well, of the film, and it's really good. I didn't quite get it the first time, but yeah. But we'll talk about that another time when you watch as well if you're not seeing it for a while.
So,
okay,
two 3.5s.
Two 3.5s, and we'll move on to kind of what's coming soon. Any news?
Okay, so we're going to go now into like trailers and what's we've seen, what's coming out, what's out at the minute. But I think we first need to talk about Mr. Kilmer, Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Very sad.
You don't think it's us, do you? Because
jinxing everyone. Yeah.
Because
I mean, look
the
out,
pilot
people.
episode it was Gene, and now we're on Val.
And then I don't know who's next. It's a bit Final Destination-y.
It is, but I've also noticed that the weather has been gorgeous since our first pilot episode. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's light to the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we'll bring in the good weather. Everywhere we go, we take the weather with us.
One of my favourite songs as well. So
Val, yes, Val.
So Val, favourite Val. Mine has got to be, and there's quite a lot to choose from, but mine is Mad Mardigan from Willow. I just think he's unbelievable in that.
I have three that come to mind. So I have Top Gun.
Yep.
I have The Doors.
Amazing. Jim Morrison.
Yep, and Batman Forever.
Really?
Yeah. When I think of Val Kilmer, they're the three films I tend to think of. I'd forgot about Willow, to be honest. Okay. And I've seen Willow loads.
Yeah. No, Willow for me, he
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
That's a great film. Was that Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah.
With Willow, when it comes to Val Kilmer, like you talk about Top Gun. Top Gun was an amazing film, and Tom Cruise stole that film. So I think everyone around that, not forgettable by any means.
Yeah.
They certainly don't jump out as like they took that character elsewhere. But Willow, Mad Mardigan for Willow, was just what he did with that was just so good. And also, I don't think people realise how much of a unit he was as well.
Yeah.
Because he was half naked in half of that film.
See,
but then the other one for me is Heat.
Yes.
He was so good in Heat.
Yeah.
But Batman Forever, I think that's one that I could probably forget about.
Did you ever see? Not necessarily that they're the ones that I like the most. They're just the ones that I think he was probably most known for. The biggest films, I guess, he was in. Did you see Island of Dr. Moreau? The remake with him in and Marlon Brando. I think it was 90s. It was one of those doomed productions. There's a really good documentary, and I can't remember what it's called, and I can't remember the director, but it was originally a director, like a second-time filmmaker, and then they replaced him with someone else halfway through because the whole thing just went off the rails. So Val Kilmer was being particularly difficult, according to the director in this documentary.
Oh, really?
Marlon Brando was just off his head, apparently, on a completely different planet. They didn't get on, Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando.
I think Marlon Brando didn't get on with many people, though.
Yeah. But it's a good documentary. But if you watch it, it's a very disjointed film. David Thewlis is in it as well.
Isn't it?
David Thewlis.
Oh, right,
English guy.
But
the Top Gun thing, I always think Maverick Goose Iceman. I think it is a memorable part.
Oh yeah, it's memorable.
Maybe because of him and the way he looks. And
but there's so much other things going on within that film
that
you could quite easily forget that he was in it.
Yeah.
whereas that's not the case for Willow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also don't think it's the case for Heat, which is even more impressive considering the cast of Heat. Yeah. The fact that you're never going to forget he's in that film. Do you know what I mean?
And two of your favourites in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So
that's Val. That's Val. So I did rewatch Batman Forever, but I'll talk about that later when we do other stuff we've watched.
Yeah.
There's not a great
fair
deal
enough.
to say, but I'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So then, trailers. One of the best trailers I've seen coming up is from one of my favourite ever comedies. It's a remake, and normally my rules on remakes are pretty harsh, but this trailer does look like it's going to be an absolute hoot, and that is Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. Totally threw me off. If you've seen the trailer, there's a standoff outside of a bank, and a young girl with a lollipop walks in, and the coppers are like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And she goes in, and that turns out to be Liam Neeson in disguise. Because if you remember the Naked Gun films,
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, but I can't remember the other guy's name who was always doing disguises, like he was a chair, and Leslie Nielsen goes and sits on him and he starts farting and stuff like that. Yeah. I think it's kind of a bit of the throw, even though it wasn't Leslie Nielsen doing the disguises. But it just looked, and there's a shot in it where Liam Neeson is like fully in a girl's outfit and he's got like knickers and everything. From that moment, I thought this is going to be an absolute.
And I wasn't,
hoot.
when they announced it, I wasn't sure of the casting at all. I suppose I've yet to see the kind of the real proof of it, I guess. But when they first said Liam Neeson, I was trying to think of what he'd been in when he'd been funny.
So the thing that came to mind straight away was he was in Life's Too Short, Ricky Gervais and Warwick Davis.
Oh, yeah, I didn't watch that.
And he's so like deadpan.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
But I just get the feeling he's gonna sort of like go step from that into this. But part of the trailer goes, he's Frank Drebin's son. So there's a picture of Leslie Nielsen on the wall, and he's like on his knees and he's going, "Oh, Dad, I miss you so much." And then it goes down the other cast members, and it gets to the end, and there's O.J. Simpson there, and there's a young guy standing there, and he looks, he's about to say something, but he just looks straight to camera and goes like that. And I just thought that was addressing that straight off the bat. Was pretty funny. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, what did I see? I saw Alien Earth. So that's the new Alien TV show.
Yep, saw that.
Coming out in the summer, I believe. There's been I think there's been 3 teasers now. There was one that was just basically just the alien screaming noise. There was a second one that was quite clever with the cats. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Cat on board the ship walking through. Yeah. And you got all those same ka-chung, 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 computer sounds and all that kind of stuff.
I'm looking forward to this so much.
And I think, Timothy Oliphant.
Some kind of fun. Sycophant.
Sure, he's Oliphant.
He's Oliphant, yeah.
And he's great. He's brilliant. And I think it's supposed to be set before the first Alien. So I'll have to kind of get my head round kind of why that is.
Oh, is that the time scale of
Earth?
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Must have been unless it's been happening at the same time as the original Alien.
For years, they've been talking about will one take place on Earth. I think the closest they got to it was Alien 3, where the prisoners were from Earth. And then they'd been removed.
Well, the new teaser is basically a guy at the control panel typing stuff away, saying there's an alien organism on board, ship's out of control, there's a lady behind him trying to get through the door to him, he won't let her in, and then you kind of see, surprisingly, actually see quite a lot of an alien take her off, and then he basically carried on typing and said that the ship's going to crash, point of impact.
This is the Alien Earth trailer. I haven't seen this one yet. Oh, no, I only saw the teaser. I saw the teaser, and I think the poster's amazing as well. It's got one of the face huggers on Earth. I think that's great.
I like the idea of it being as long as it doesn't turn into a kind of Walking Dead, which is why I kind of stopped watching Walking Dead. I know a lot of people watch them, but that bit where everybody's together, then they split up, and then they meet new characters. Some are bad, some are good, and then they all get back together, and then they split up again, and kind of your Lost thing. And that,
I get what you're saying. But then they've got to kind of make it exciting that way.
Yeah.
What did you think to Romulus?
I liked it, and myself and my mate who went to see it both said the same thing when we came out. We couldn't think of any particular standout scenes.
Right.
Weirdly.
So not the one where the anti-gravity thing comes on.
That's the only one really. There's the bit with the lift that I thought was very predictable, which is kind of linked to that one.
I'm kind of with the same thing.
I liked it, and I've watched it a couple of times since.
It's certainly above some of the Alien films that have come and gone. But I was very similar to yourself, where a lot of I went to see it with a few friends, and they came out and they really enjoyed it. And I love Alien film. I love the Alien franchise. Absolutely love it. Aliens. But I came out feeling like there wasn't anything there that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. And when you've got that opportunity, I think you've really got to take it. I think they tried their hardest to make it a little bit more modern horror. Was it in real time as well? I'm sure I read somewhere it's supposed to be in real time. So there's that bit where there was the facehuggers in the water. It's sort of like there was water at the knee level, and the way that was shot, that was different. It was shot differently. It was shot more like a modern horror, you know, and it kind of set it up. And I thought this is going to be a new take on it. But then when I left, same thing as yourself. The bit with the anti-gravity. And where there was coming out there. No spoilers, I guess, even though it's been out a while.
I think we're going to have a spoiler. If something's out, out on streaming services...
When the acid blood is floating in it, that kind of felt to me that would have been far better placed in like a game.
Yeah.
You know, when you got the game and you're avoiding it in a game. Yeah. But on film, you saw that coming very, very early. And when it came, you was just like, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I didn't like the end, which I'm not going to say what happens in the end, but I didn't like the end, the way that went, in the same way I didn't like the way the end went in Alien Resurrection. Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah. Okay, next trailer.
F1. Now, I've got 4 friends in particular who will be creaming themselves over F1.
Really?
They're big gamers. I'll mention them. So we've got Dave, we've got Andy, we've got John, we've got Big Matt.
Big Matt. So there's Little Matt and Big Matt.
Yeah, Big Matt because he's basically about an inch taller than me. Okay. So I'm Little Matt.
Is that height or
height?
Okay.
But both probably. And so they'll be absolutely creaming themselves over this because they're big gamers and they kind of do that meetup thing where they do online racing and stuff and things like that. They've had girlfriends and stuff, I think. And,
had.
Yeah, I'm sure they've held hands with girls.
Past tense.
I'll probably get paid for that. So F1. So Brad Pitt, same guy who directed Top Gun Maverick.
Okay.
And seems very similar in the sense that, and I'm assuming this, and I'm pretty sure I've seen some footage where Brad Pitt is actually going to be driving the F1 cars himself.
So I think he's on his way out, kind of thing.
Yeah, he's gone to Daytona, I believe. Yeah. Kind of step down a little bit.
Is it Damson Idris, the other guy? The other racer? I'm sure it's Damson Idris.
Yeah. I believe it is. And he's obviously going to get brought back in. It looks like he mentors the kid, but then something will happen where he has to get back in the car himself and that kind of stuff. But it looks good. Looks
well, I know some of it was shot actually during the British Grand Prix last year. So them getting out the car and using actual crowds and stuff like that. So that's all going to look great. And then I've also heard that they've actually managed to strap cameras to F1 cars for some of it, which anyone is going to enjoy.
I'm pumped for it. I mean, just the fact that it's the same kind of, and Tom Cruise is obviously involved in some way. But he's a producer. I'm sure it's Skydance as well, which is his production company, is it?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. So there's that to look for. That's summertime. Fantastic Four. So the new trailer for Fantastic Four First Steps, I believe, is the what do you call it? There's a name for it in the bit that comes after.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called now.
Not tagline, not strapline, but something.
It's title. Subtitle.
Fantastic Four First Steps, which looks okay. Apparently they're using a lot of miniatures and stuff and kind of practical models and things.
Cool.
They give it kind of like a 50s, 60s look.
Yeah, I like that.
The main reason for me to watch that would be, and I've written his name down, it was Eben Moss. Eben Moss I can never pronounce it. Eben Moss Backrack.
I'm sure you're making a Backrack.
Backrack.
Okay.
The guy who's the cousin in, have you watched The Bear? The TV show about the chef.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tall cousin.
Yeah.
He plays, and I'm not a massive Fantastic Four fan. I can't even think what the character is called, but the brick rock man.
The Thing, isn't it?
The Thing.
Yeah.
He plays him.
Yeah.
So I'd watch it just for that, because he's one of those actors like we were
Yeah,
talking about
do
last
you know what though?
episode
It's funny
that's
that you
just
say
really
that, because
good.
I think the cast is great, but there was a lot of backlash about him being cast, because I don't know, but the thing is apparently like he's actually quite a whiny in the comic. And Fantastic Four was never one of my favourites.
I thought
yeah, apparently the accents, they already know, fanboys already know that the accent's not going to be accurate.
But in the trailer, I'd quite liked it. He had that kind of Bostonian twang like he does in the Bear.
He's a great actor though. Love him in the Bear.
He is. He's really good. Really good. Fantastic Four and then just some new. Oh, there was a new Mission Impossible trailer dropped yesterday.
This is you
last
creaming in your
episode,
knickers for
I was
this one.
bigging up the last Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning trailer, saying if they ever do Oscars for trailers, it should win. This one that just dropped will definitely win. Similar thing again, bit more kind of on-screen dialogue in this trailer, but again, really well made and just makes you want to see it instantly.
Yeah. It's not long to wait for that one. Is it end of May?
I think it is end of May. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
And you'll hear all about it here. We'll both see that one. That'll be brilliant. Yeah,
We'll watch that one together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the only other news thing was the Beatles films. They've announced the Beatles films.
Again, another polarising thing. A lot of people saying it's great cast. A lot of people saying it's been miscast. I can't stand how people just micro. I mean, we're talking about stuff now, but how people just like micro sort of analyse every element of everything. Every single person that's been cast in that film is a great actor. So people talking about getting the accents down, or they've done it in another film and didn't get it around. I'm pretty certain they're going to take it a bit more seriously this time. If there was in some indie film trying to put on a Scouse accent, it's not going to be representative of this. I personally think the cast is fantastic, and I also think that it's rare now that you're going to get that four.
Are they all coming out the same month? I think they are, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all going to films. Four films at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
They've marketed it as a cinema binge. So they say binge TV. This is binge cinema. Yeah. And personally, I don't know when that's been done, other than when they've re-released films, like they've re-released all 6 Star Wars or whatever. I don't think I can think off the top of my head of a new set of films that they've released them all at the same time. So I think it'd be quite good. Yeah,
that was interesting. Interesting way of doing it. But different perspective from each different member.
Nowadays, when people talk about cast and ensembles, it's rare you're going to get 4 guys kind of competing for. They will be them 4 guys will be competing for every Hollywood role that's out at the minute, and one will get it, the other one will think it. They will be in their element, and they'll be going to all auditions. Their names will be put in every single hat for every 20, 30 something lad in every film. So it's rare that you're going to see 4 in one film, and it's going to be harmonious and stuff like that. So I think we need to savour that. I need to savour the talent, because I think it's going to be unreal. Yeah. So I'll be watching that.
I'm a big Beatles fan as well now. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
And hopefully price of Beatles vinyl will go through the roof.
Yeah.
To be fair, it always sells really well. I've got a cabinet full of stuff. Brilliant. Right, is that it for news?
That's it for news as far as I'm aware.
Well, we'll go on to our top 3 of this episode then.
Okay.
Okay, folks, so we're now going to talk about our top 3 scary moments / scenes.
Yep.
Ooh. So we'll do it. Let's take it in turns. We'll go 3 to 1, 1 being the scariest, 3 still being insanely scary, but not as scary as 1.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Sounds like
so
a plan.
Who's kicking off?
I think you should kick off.
Okay. So I've got written down here that didn't necessarily scariest moments. I think we discussed this before. Is like sometimes for me the more scary moments are not like in your face jump scares. They are like mental.
Yes.
More psychological things.
Stuff that gets under your skin. For me, stuff that stays with you
after the film.
So you think about it after, and it still scares you.
Yes.
So, for instance, things like Scream. The Scream films, and the kind of the more recent slasher films don't scare me. Jump scares get me, but only in the minutes. They don't stay with me. Yeah. But I do like a good jump scare. Yes. But it's more the stuff that.
So mine would be the first one. The earliest memory I've got of like being scared shitless from films is the original Halloween. And the moment, and there's a lot of moments in that film, but the moment I'm talking about specifically is where they've had a little bit of a tussle, and I think he just gets her in the closet, and then she kind of like overpowers him, and he's lying on the floor. She sits down in the doorway, and she speaks to the kids and sends them down the street. And there's just this shot, which has probably been done 1,000 times since, but bear in mind it was probably one of the first times it's ever been done in that way, with the music as well. Is where over her shoulder, out of focus, he just leans up, and it's just the way he leans up, and then he turns to the camera, and as he does, you get that dun, dun.
Yeah.
That for me, when I was growing up, after watching that film, I saw that face everywhere. Turn the lights off, he was in the corner of my room, he was under my bed. And that for me is like more scarier than like moments, you know what I mean?
There's something else with that as well, because there isn't like a score that builds up. So often filmmakers let themselves down a bit by feeling like they need to build up a thing.
So you're waiting for it. Yeah.
Whereas that's one of those kind of creeps up on you kind of things.
And the other thing about the score or sound effects on that one is like a lot of the time it was like just him breathing in the mask.
Yeah.
And that, just that breathing. Yeah. Once that film was finished, I took that with me. So yeah, Michael Myers, classic, original.
Right, okay, that's your number 3. My number 3 is not strictly a horror film. Maybe we'd call it a horror thriller. 7. So the starved man in 7. Yeah. So they get a tip-off about a guy that's linked with John Doe. You have that brilliant scene, so we're probably going into more than I need to, but that brilliant scene with the SWAT, really well done, where all the SWAT guys jump in the van and they all race to this apartment. So they get there, they go in, there's all the... was it Magic Tree?
The air freshener.
Little air freshener. There's hung everywhere, gazillions of them.
Yeah.
The SWAT guys go in first. Mills and Somerset, the detectives, they're outside. They get a call from the guy inside. He was a really good actor who was in loads of stuff. I'm going to say John C. McGinley.
Yes, he's in it, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's in the chopper at the end as well. He was in...
Scrubs.
Was the captain, and he was the captain in Point Break as well,
yes.
I think.
Anyway,
easy. So he shouts back, detectives, you're going to want to take a look at this. So you start to get that feeling that there's something unpleasant. They go in, and this guy's been starved over a period of a year. So already it gets to you.
You can almost smell that road.
Yeah, they find the photos, and there's a photo for every single day. So there's almost like a flick book, flicking through the guy getting more wizened. And then the bit, if it wasn't scary enough, the bit where the SWAT guy...
a gasp.
Yeah, leans over the guy, takes a gasp, and
just
fuck me. That was,
Yeah, got me as well.
And I remember seeing that in the cinema. So, God, what year was 7? 95.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, so I remember seeing that in cinema. Took a girl on a date. It was a first date. And when we came out after seeing 7, this is no word of a lie, she was sick in the toilets. She was so traumatised by the film 7.
So, you didn't see her again?
I didn't see her again. I can't remember, actually. No, I don't think I did. So the Starved Man in 7, that's my number 3. We should at some point do a retro 7 review. That would be good.
Yes, that would be good, because it is in my top 10.
Definitely.
So it's always like etched in my memory.
Brilliant.
I think we're going to have to break thingy here. No, I won't. But my next 2 are actually from, I think we discussed it, it's like Lady in White, and then the second one's in The Lady in Black.
Yes.
So Lady in White, very old, say 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, psychological horror. There's setting the scene to that is, and again, this is a psychological thing. This is not like a jump scare or anything, but setting the scene is that this boy gets trapped or bullied and locked in a closet, and he's there overnight, and witnesses like this ghost approaching, and this little girl coming into the same locker, and she's talking to somebody, but you don't see or hear the other person's response because that person is still in the real world. So you're just seeing it, and then this girl gets abused and killed, and this boy sort of sees it happen in ghost form, but then somebody actually comes into the closet. They're looking for something, and he's in the corner, like with his eyes, with his mask on, and they're looking into the drain and they're looking for something and trying to get it open, and this boy kind of makes a noise, and that gets disturbed, and the shadow sort of like the person grabs hold of him, and then it's like blackout, the kid's in bed. But whilst that was happening, when he was looking for something, he was whistling a tune as he was doing it, which is super creepy, and it's an actual song. I think it's that. Did you ever see a guy walking? I don't know what the actual song is.
Yeah, rings a bell.
He's whistling that during that bit. So then after that, the kid's kind of like obsessed, and he keeps going there, and he sees this happening to this girl, and I think she visits his room as well randomly. But basically, he then wants to find out who it is and who done it, and he goes to find out in the drain what the guy was looking for, the person was looking for, and it was a championship ring from a school, or from a high school. And it just happened to be his dad's high school. So he goes to look at a book, and he sees his dad in there, and he's just assuming it's his dad. So he's trying to keep away from his dad while he's figuring this out. And his uncle takes him in the woods deer hunting or something like that. And there's just this moment where he gets in the car first, and his uncle starts walking up to the car. And you don't see his uncle's face, you just see his body going around the car, and he starts whistling that tune. That moment for me just like proper got me like, ugh! Do you know what I mean? And it's stuff like that, psychological stuff, really just gets me when people really give a thought to how we can get into people's heads. Yeah. So it's something and nothing. The rest of the film is crazy, and it's a good film. It's got the lady who played the witch from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. You know, she plays the witch singer. She's in it, and I don't know why they keep using that woman, but they keep putting a wide-angle lens and their face right into it. She does it again in this film. So, I mean, the whole film's quite scary, particularly for the age of it, and it's just got that really rough retro feel to it. So even if you watched it now, I think it'd stand up. Yeah. But yeah, no, that moment where the whistle comes in, that proper freaked me out as a kid, because I would have watched that again when I was like younger than I probably should have been. Sorry, Mum. But yeah, that's up there for psychological. Go on then.
Right, okay, good. My number two is the blood test scene in The Thing, in John Carpenter's Thing. Second mention for John Carpenter. That just shows what a maestro of horror he is.
Yeah.
Is that a proper sentence? Is he a master
of
horror?
Now. Yeah, it is now.
What's the difference between a master and a maestro?
Just like the Church of Nostalgia.
Yes. So the blood. Yeah. So 1982. The Thing, John Carpenter. We've already had also a retro review we must do on The Thing. We've had the dog with the tentacles, which is awful. We've then had the chest busting scene, not bursting, that would be Alien.
Yep.
Busting is going into the chest. Bursting is coming out of the chest.
Just need to clarify these things when you're talking about horror.
That's my definition.
Yeah. It's all about the visuals.
Yeah, so we've had that. We've then had everything else that happens after the what's the fucking term for CPR scene and everything that comes with that, and the spider head and all that stuff. Freaky. I don't know how old I was. Maybe 10. I saw it on VHS when it first came out.
Right.
So really young. So I've never seen anything like that. And then so it's all building up, and then we get to the point where Kurt wants to find out who's this thing and who isn't. Gets everybody kind of tied to these benches, and the idea is that the thing reacts to heat.
Yes.
So therefore, if they take a bit of blood from everybody, and they've got a hot bit of wire that he heats up with his little blowtorch and stick it into the blood that's in a little petri dish, petri or petri, again you see, bursting, busting.
Tomato.
Petri dish.
Yes, I'm going with that.
Yeah. The blood will react.
Yeah.
So we have then various, I think it's 3 or 4, where he's basically got different people's blood, and he's sticking this thing out, and he's just waiting to find out who this thing is. And then obviously he gets to the one who it is, touches the blood, and the blood kind of physically reacts and kind of leaps out. Proper jump scare, but also there's just that tension, just that building up. Given you know what's gone before, what the fuck's going to happen next when they eventually find out who's the thing. The only thing that spoils it very slightly, and this is because I watched this not so long back, is that on the point where he tests the blood that's actually the thing, you see Kurt Russell do a slight like that.
Oh, really?
Because obviously it was a practical effect.
Yeah.
something under his
I'm going to go and watch
his
that
hand,
then.
and he
I'll
kind
put
of
that
jumps
here
out.
somewhere.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but you think, oh, it's going to be that one, because you see him just very slightly go like that as he's acting and touching. So that's my
that gives it away a little
number
bit.
3. But you wouldn't notice. It's only when you've seen it 346 times, which I have, that I noticed that.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a film buff, mate.
Yeah.
So my third one is Lady in Black. Now, this film got a lot of stick because Daniel Radcliffe was playing like an adult, and I think people couldn't sort of get Harry Potter out of their brains. Yeah. He was playing a dad. And he had quite a responsible job. I think he's a detective, or I forget what his actual job is, but he's going to this place which is really eerie. And on that note, the grading and the cinematography is fantastic. It's all sort of like really sort of green and dark and moody. But yeah, he's tasked with going to. I think he's going to value this home for sort of like. What's it worth, what's going on with it, all the things inside it. I might be wrong, but I think that's what he's doing. So he ends up in this home on his own, and obviously there's lots of goings on with this lady in black. But one of them, what I thought was just really creative is we've seen so many times you see people like the moments where you do the little spin shot and then you turn around and somebody's there. Or somebody's in front of him, or coming behind them. But this particular shot, he goes into a room and there's a rocking chair moving on its own, and he's looking at the rocking chair, and we're seeing it sort of first person from there. But then there's a shot where it's in reverse, and it's looking at him, and the rocking chair is out of focus in the front of it, and it's empty. And there's just a one shot where it comes forward, and she's sat in it. Was not expecting that because I was expecting somebody behind her.
I think I do. I've seen it a couple of times.
It was such a good diversion.
Yeah.
But as jump scares go, that was one of them that really did get me. I was not expecting it at all because it sets it up so well that there could have been 2 or 3 kind of cliche things that you've seen before, and it's really getting you to look over here and look over here and look over here, and then it just does something fairly simple, but it worked brilliantly. So yeah, that was my third on.
Brilliant.
Lady in Black.
But my number one scary scene moment is in The Exorcist 3.
Oh, yeah.
So 1990, so we'd had The Exorcist, awesome. We'd had The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, sucked balls, absolute garbage. And then in slips The Exorcist 3, which discounts The Exorcist 2 and follows directly on from the original Exorcist.
Right. Good decision, I guess.
But yes. And you see this a lot mentioned in kind of retro reviews and stuff because film people get quite cross that it didn't get the credit and respect it deserved because it is a brilliant film and it kind of got a little bit overlooked. Anyway, so various things are taking place in this hospital. It's too complicated to go into when we have the time. But there is the scariest, in my opinion, the scariest ever scene in this film. And I've drawn this diagram. A diagram to help me explain why it's so scary.
Okay, Tony.
I've done it on the back of what was once the punk divider for the record because I put punk together with mod and ska in the shop. That's where we are.
Okay, so come on then, Tony Hart.
Sorry. So this is the hospital. Now it's a long shot. It seems like it lasts about 5, possibly 10 minutes. Probably about 5 minutes. It's not a oneer. But it is focused just on this hospital corridor. This is the corridor. These blacked out areas are hospital rooms. This is the corridor. That is a little reception area here. And there's a little nursey. And then these are 2 security guards here and here. This is the nurse that we're following. Okay, she's moving up the corridor. Now what happens during this very kind of just static shot of this corridor, imagine it more at that kind of angle, and we're looking down, is that Nursey on reception and the 2 security guards at various times wander off and do things and come back, and it's all very mannered and very slow and paced. So first of all, Nursey's doing her rounds and she hears something and she goes into this room here. In there we get a jump scare, not the main scare, it's a jump scare just to catch us off guard.
Just a bit of salt and pepper.
And we think, oh, that's it. We know something's going to happen. She comes back out of there. By which time, and much time has passed, everybody's gone from here. They've all gone, doing the thing, having the tea, doing the stuff. Okay. So it's just Nursey left in the corridor on her own. She walks up here. She goes, I'll try this room. Walks in there. We're still watching from the outside in the corridor. nothing happening, turns the light out, comes back out. As she walks out of there with the precision of a surgeon, the director kind of zooms in. There's an awful sound effect, and this possessed older patient comes out behind her with these giant metal shears, and as she's about to cut her head off, we cut to a statue which has a bearing in the rest of the story with no head.
Right.
But the way it's done is absolutely terrifying.
It's not Freaking, is it? You said it was someone else.
No, Freaking did the original, as we know, and it was Blatty, William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, directs The Exorcist 3. I may be wrong. I'm 99.9% sure on that.
Okay, as we normally are, yeah.
Anyway, I hope that was helpful.
Can I just say, was I supposed to bring visual aids for mine?
No, you weren't. No, I just wanted to because it's such an important, scary moment that everybody should be made to watch. And I'm sure if you go on YouTube and just put scary bit in Exorcist 3, you'll be able to watch the whole thing.
We're going to do a competition. You sign it in
minutes.
And
yes, I'll give this away.
Best comment underneath.
Give this away to anybody who.
Best comment underneath. The best scary moment. We can have this.
Yes, you can have that.
Okay.
So do send us do comment on top threes, because we're going to do a top 3 every main episode. So give us some ideas for top 3s. The only thing I would say, of course, is I didn't include who absolutely terrified me. Stephen Graham's character of Combo in This Is England. Every scene he's in, you're sat waiting for something to happen, and when it does, it's awful.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, on Stephen Graham, I don't think we're gonna get past talking about adolescence. I think. I think everyone. Else, I think everyone else is. So, like everyone else, I watched Adolescence and thought it was outstanding.
It was, absolutely.
I thought one of the main things, obviously people talk about the fact that it was shot in one take, which is impressive in and of itself. People have done stuff like that before, but I don't really see it to this level. There are films that class as one-ers in the form that they are. It's a continuous story in real time, but there may be little sneaky little cuts here and there for production-wise. This isn't that. This is literally all the way through. As if somebody fluffs, then you start back again. And I believe they shot each one. I'm probably wrong now, but they shot each one multiple times.
It must be. I think when I saw it, various interviews, I think they said about 13, 14 times
something like
per
that.
episode.
Yeah, which is
because I was thinking to myself, if I was one of those actors that was towards the kind of the 45-minute, 50-minute mark. On one of the episodes, I'd be absolutely bricking it. They've gone through all that.
I know, the pressure.
Makes it all the more impressive. Might only have a lot. I mean, because there were some characters that just popped in and did a little bit, and then you didn't see them again.
Yeah. Oh, honestly. And I heard some of the production, some of the PAs and stuff was actually dressed up as cast members because they was going to be so close in vicinity. Like, if they like cameramen, for instance, they was actually dressed as extras. So when the camera gets put on a drone, they can walk off as if they were part of the thing, so they don't be seen.
Right.
Really clever work. But what I personally, as a filmmaker, thought was great about the Adolescence and the making of Adolescence was most of the time when things are done in a one-er. I think there's a film called Boiling Point where they've sort of like addressed, they kind of had a go of it there. But most of the time when things are done in a one-er, long takes. One in Goodfellas. There's quite a few. A Birdman, and things like that.
Snake Eyes, wasn't that?
Yes, and Carlito's Way. There's one at the very end when he gets in Grand Central Station, which is brilliant to watch, by the way. Is it De Palma? I think it's De Palma.
Yeah.
But basically,
it was also Snake Eyes. I think it must be his thing.
That's right. Yeah. So the thing about it is for me that when that happens, the actual one-er becomes the product. It's like, fancy, look at this, and you get enough stuff right in the middle of it, then it looks great because it's a one-er. I feel like Adolescence was the first time I watched something and thought, yes, it was done in a one-er, yes, that's a lot of effort gone into it, but the story and the acting really did overlook the fact that it was one-er. So I felt like the actual show, the acting, the story was the product, and the one-er was the packaging. You know what I mean? There wasn't relying on the one-er to sell it.
Yeah.
They could have shot that program.
It wasn't advertised in any way. There was no marketing before it that highlighted.
But they could have shot that
one shot
in a more natural style of shooting, and people will still be.
I wonder whether that's why it also felt so grueling when you watched it.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of each episode, me and Max seemed to look at each other and think, "Fuck, that were a."
So even on that, so when you're making films, you have to intentionally, after a scene, you have to intentionally have a little portion what lets the audience know that you're not there anymore. So it could be like cutting to the outside of a building and someone will come out the building, then the dialogue starts again. You don't necessarily go from dialogue to dialogue unless your scenes that you're trying to do are interwoven. With this one, because of that, you couldn't go for a cup of tea. You couldn't think it was that is like it was on it, and that was brilliant. And the other thing, going back to it, is like the acting. The people making a big political thing out of it, and rightly so. And I've seen people talking about whether it should or shouldn't be shown in schools. My personal opinion is like, if it does, great. If it doesn't matter. But there is one part of that where I absolutely thought 100% it should be shown in school. Very first episode, he gets arrested, this boy. And I feel like, not to hit on this not to kick this generation or whatever, but I do feel like it would benefit some of this younger generation to see what happens after the thing. You know, a lot of stuff is done in the moment. There's anger, there's angst, there's this, and commit a crime. But the reality of what happens afterwards is very rarely shown. And the fact that I think from when he gets picked up from his bedroom and when he gets processed, that bit, I think, realistically, I think would be helpful for kids to see, because as far as I'm aware, and I've spoken to people that I know, some police, people like that said that was fairly accurate. So the fact that once the police come for you, that's the last time you see your bedroom. That's the last time you see your regular clothes. That's the last time you see your family and that thing. And then the physical side of getting processed because of the fact that it was quite a horrific crime.
I'm nodding like I know, but I obviously don't know.
But like,
yes, from watching the thing, you're
so
right,
when I watched that first episode, I did think immediately, I feel like this needs a lot of people of that age group should actually see that what realistically happens after the thing. You know, not this bravado, this thing getting with the boys and getting with the girls or whatever, and riling each other to do something. I think very few people really realise what happens after the fact. You know what I mean? Yeah. And first time it'll hit those people who are going to commit a crime or do something wrong or something in the moment is the reality of it hits after.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not saying that showing a film is going to change people to that sort of effect.
It's worth a try. It's worth a try. Anything's.
Yeah, but the acting. I mean, the young lad Owen Cooper, he's absolutely phenomenal, and people are going on about Owen Cooper, and it's rightly so again. But there was a scene there with him and Erin Doherty in a therapist scenario. That was, for a first time round, that was phenomenal work. Like,
is she the same actor that's in? Was it 1,000 Blows with?
Yes,
with him.
Unbelievable. And on that note, went down a little bit of a wormhole. One of my other favourite actors is Jared Harris, who was in, he's been in a lot of things, but he was in the Chernobyl miniseries. And for me...
And Lost in Space.
Really?
With Gary Oldman and
I didn't know
LeBlanc.
That. I need to watch that again then.
At the end, the last kind of 20, 30 minutes.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I'll go watch that again. But yeah, but in Chernobyl, blew me away. Chernobyl blew me away. Yeah. As a miniseries, I was like,
watch Chernobyl. If you've not seen Chernobyl, it's important. Yeah. It's one of those things that you just have to see, I guess.
Yeah, and then when I saw this Erin Doherty in Doherty, in this, and then I went down a wormhole. I found another film where they was actually in recently last year, and it's also got Juliet Stevenson in. It's called Reawakening, and it's just a pure actors film, and I can't believe it's gone under the radar a little bit. So what come from that was that I sort of discovered that film, and I would definitely recommend you watch Reawakening. It's a UK indie, and the UK indies really need that kind of support now. And the female director Virginia Gilbert has done a fantastic job. But yeah, that's another sort of little gem that I found off pulling the threads of going down the wormhole to find that. It's that film in particular it's about loss and grief, and it kind of hit with me a little bit at the minute because I'm currently filming a short about grief. So yeah, it was great to sort of like watch that, see performers, see what they're bringing, and basically a girl runs away when she's 14. I think she gets in, dabbles in a few things she shouldn't be doing, and then returns 10, 12 years later, something like that. and the dad is suspicious that it's actually here, and it's just Erin Doherty plays the older version of the daughter, and it becomes more about like allowing yourself to open up after you've already grieved, and then another side of it is that grabbing that with everything you've got, regardless of any suspicions, because you haven't fully dealt with the grief, so it's like it's come home, and it was a really good sort of like look at that. So yeah, I recommend Reawakening as well.
Okay, well we've drifted into other stuff we've watched. So
okay.
Should we talk about everything else?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Recommendations for folks?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool.
So I watched The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man, 1973, directed by Robin Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote the book, I believe. Did a follow-up book that was never made. It was made into a film, and I think I looked at Rotten Tomatoes and it gets something like 2%.
Oh god.
Same director.
It was remade with Nicolas Cage.
With Nicolas Cage, which it's not a bad film, that, but it's not The Wicker Man. So we've got The Wicker Man. So before we had things like Saltburn and everyone saying, oh, this is a bit weird and all the rest of it, we had The Wicker Man, which is one of the weirdest, strangest, creepiest, kookiest films ever made.
I've only seen it once, but I can remember that is my takeaway.
Every time you watch it, it gets better. It's one of those where, you know, a bit like Midsommar. Did you see Ari Aster?
No.
Is it Ari Aster,
Is it
director?
Florence Pugh?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but I
brilliant.
really want to see it. Is
So
that not horror, though?
Yeah.
Right,
so it's
cool.
the same Hereditary director.
Okay, yeah, that's
with
right.
Toni Collette, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Midsommar. One of those where you watch it again, you see different stuff in the background, people doing weird stuff and all the rest of it. So the basic plot is Edward Woodward, very straight-laced, by-the-book sergeant. He's asked to go to an island, Summer Isle, I think it's called. And I think it's an actual place as well. I think there's a place called Summer Isle.
Okay.
To investigate a missing girl. And he gets there, and then basically he's surrounded by these weird and wonderful characters that live on this island, and it's crazy.
Right.
So you've got Christopher Lee, whose hair is crazy and gets crazier as the film goes on.
Yeah.
You've got Britt Eklund, who does a crazy sex dance.
Lovely.
Which is interesting. There's a chemist, crazy chemist, who sells pickled foreskins. And you basically just got this town full of weird and wonderful people. And Edward Woodward gets more and more infuriated by the fact that he's trying to find out about this missing girl. In fact, he often shouts, "You're all raving mad," because they are real kind of kooks. The soundtrack's brilliant. And on the hill there was a man, and on the man there was a tree, all this kind of folky Celtic stuff. And the songs really stay with you as well. Really strange imagery, lots of stuff around hares and rabbits and that kind of stuff. People kind of breastfeeding by the side of gravestones and all,
I think I've seen it when I was like 10 or 11, and I remember it being really like not off-putting, but really. You know.
It is a weird one. And then the ending, which I'll not give away, in case somebody hasn't seen it. I think most people probably have, but if you haven't watched it, the ending still packs a real punch.
Right.
And you've seen it, so you'll kind of know why. But I would highly recommend, if you've watched it once, rewatch it, because there'll be stuff you missed. If you've never seen it, watch The Wicker Man.
Okay. So mine was, I went on a bit of a Gene Hackman wormhole. After we left.
Rightly so. I don't think we did him enough justice.
No.
Last time.
So I went to watch The Conversation, which, as a modern day filmmaker, I loved it. The sound design was so good. The acting was amazing. But I did kind of watch it thinking, I think we would struggle now to get this generation to watch a film of that technical.
I think I've only seen it once, and I think it was a long time back.
Yeah. Then French Connection.
Yeah.
Went to see the French Connection as well. Yeah, just went on a bit of a Gene Hackman thing. I watched Superman for old time's sake, Christopher Reeves as well.
Yeah.
And then after I watched the Reawakening film, which I'll repeat again, you have to go and watch. I subscribed to BFI Player for that reason, and then just the titles they've got on the BFI Player. I watched La Haine.
Right. Not seen it.
Oh, it's great. I mean, again, it's of its time. I would imagine for me, it's a classic. It's about the sort of the protest in Paris, mid-90s, and there's like the ghettos and the immigrants and stuff like that against and one of them, I think the police are a bit heavy-handed, and one of their really good friends ends up in hospital on life support. So out of sort of anger, they end up getting a gun, and one of them's threatening that if he dies, they're going to eye for an eye. They're going to go and get a copper. But the acting, it's just a route, you know what I mean? It's like, I've seen a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of people about it, they don't like it at all. It is just a...
Subtitled, isn't it?
Yeah, it is just, it's subtitled. You can, but it's just a night of, or a couple of nights of like, not terror at all. What I'm trying to say is like a night of just anger and
disruption,
and crime and stuff like that. But the acting's phenomenal. It's I will not even be able to think of his name because my head's gone. Yeah, him.
Cavi.
Yeah, that one. But basically, yeah. So from there, I went to... That'll be cut out, don't worry. So from there, I went to an even darker place, and I went to watch Nil by Mouth.
Ooh.
And I remember watching 20 minutes of that when I was quite young and not being able to finish it.
Yeah.
Finished it now, and I don't understand why films like that are not being made. Like Adolescence kind of reminds me of that. Obviously, a much more modern production value, but that's again. I think people do like some people, and I'm rightly so. If you don't like to watch gritty, real issue films, and you want to keep it light, I totally get that. Some people go to do films just to escape from stuff like that, not to go and watch stuff like that, but those messages, those personalities, that kind of writing is still massively important. Like I watched it thinking that, it's almost like people do think like domestic violence of that nature is a thing of the past because the films aren't made like that anymore and it's not on the TV much anymore. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The numbers for domestic violence are through the roof. I'm personally doing a short film on domestic violence because of some of the statistics we've seen locally, which are shocking. But yeah, I went to see that, and I just went on a British With Nail and I.
Right.
So With Nail and I, I'm not sure if that was on the BFI player, but it just got me into that wormhole, watching sort of the old British films. So yeah.
I went down similar to with the Nil by Mouth after watching Adolescence. I felt like I wanted to watch something else really heavy as well. So I watched Mystic River. So Clint Eastwood directed. Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon,
Tim Robbins.
Yeah. Starts off
what a great film.
with those three characters as kids, up to no good. They get pulled by the cops. The cops insist on kind of taking them home to kind of tell the parents. Two of the kids won't get in the cop car. They manage to get Tim Robbins' character as a young person to get in the car with them. They take him off. He's in the back of the police car. Great shot of him kind of going off and him looking through the back window of his two friends. Gets horribly abused. We then skip forward to them as adults. So you've got Kevin Bacon, who's now a cop. You've got Sean Penn, who's kind of a shady businessman type,
crime.
not quite mob, kind of that way. And then you've got Tim Robbins, who's been scarred by the whole event and lives a kind of different life. So they've all taken quite different paths. And then the story of the film is that Sean's parents, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer and I'm sure most people know, Sean Penn's daughter is killed. And it's kind of then a whodunit, but a very character-driven whodunit. The whodunit kind of is almost an aside. You're just really interested in these characters.
Especially Tim Robbins as a thing.
And you've got Kevin Bacon, who finds the body but then hasn't seen Sean Penn for a number of years. You've then got Sean Penn discovering it is his daughter, which is just a horrendous scene when the body's found and Sean Penn breaks through the police cordon. Talk about acting and kind of the wailing noise. And,
I actually have a little interesting thing about that. Apparently, there was on these films you have like police consultants, and the consultant said, right, if it's going to be in that scenario, you'd have at least 4 to 6 coppers like restraining somebody because like when they're in that kind of grief, apparently Sean Penn was so into it, they had to add another couple.
Yeah,
So he's got eight. He's got 8 coppers
Yeah.
on him, holding him back because he was like,
Yeah.
and his acting in that film was. Everybody's in that film was phenomenal.
And he's kind of
he won
tragic
an
how
Oscar.
it kind of plays out. I think he did.
Yeah, I'm sure he won an Oscar for it. I might be wrong.
But it's a brilliant film, absolutely brilliant film, and one of Clint's best. I think his career has kind of gone up and down with the films he directs.
Yeah.
But particularly good. So if you've not seen it for a while or you've never seen it, Mystic River, really good film.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Hackman. I watched Mississippi Burning.
Okay.
Because I wanted to kind of watch something with Gene in where he was kind of at his very best, and I think there's not many films where he's much better than he is in Mississippi Burning. I think he's as an actor, he covers everything. He's kind of the story is there are 2 FBI guys brought into the Deep South to investigate a missing kid.
Yep.
The town's full of the Ku Klux Klan, and they basically have to find out what happened. But Gene Hackman's brilliant, as in his character is part mischievous and playful, as he's kind of prodding.
Personally, I think that was one of his best.
Yeah, and then we go right through the acting arc, if you like, to proper hard as nails, Popeye Doyle type stuff at the end, where you just kind of had enough of all the bullshit type thing.
Yeah.
But really good, important film as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess it is an important film. So yeah, Mississippi Burning, and I think that was that one I watched. Oh, and then I mentioned earlier Batman Forever.
Batman Forever.
Just for the Val Kilmer thing, just because I've not seen it for, I reckon, over 25 years. Probably not long after it came out, to be honest. When it came out in '95. So we'd had Batman Returns. Batman Returns didn't do quite as well.
Yeah.
And the studio.
I don't know why, because that's actually quite funny.
And kind of panicked and thought we've gone a bit too goth for folks. They can't quite cope with it. So let's.
That's got Christopher Walken and Danny DeVito. Yeah. It is a bit off the wall a bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But, if you think about Batman Returns,
is that also the one with Michelle Pfeiffer and a cat suit?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot going on. There's a lot. It's almost more of a drama really than an action film.
Yeah.
Batman Returns.
Yeah.
So then they went with Batman Forever. It's almost like they got the different dials of cartoonish, crank that up to 11, campiness, let's crank that up to 11. And it's kind of a proper assault on the senses. Everything's turned up to 11. So it's real neon, real bright stuff.
Who's the villains in?
So we've got Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. And we've got Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Okay, so who was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
That's
George
Batman and Robin. That's the one afterwards where they completely lost.
So Jim Carrey and who was the other one?
Tommy Lee Jones.
That's right.
So Jim Carrey had done Ace Ventura, The Mask, and the third film.
Dumb and Dumber.
He was Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
So he was big shit at that point. So they got him as a thing.
He got paid a fortune as well.
Yeah, the dialogue's clunky. It's very comic bookish.
Yeah.
So like the whole Jim Carrey's or the Riddler's arc for becoming the Riddler is literally Bruce Wayne visits a factory with inventions and various things. Jim Carrey goes up to him and says, "I've made this kind of machine that can read your mind." Val Kilmer says, "I don't like anything that involves reading people's minds." Walks off. Jim Carrey says, "Right, you're going to pay for that," kind of thing, and that's it. And then he becomes the Riddler. But yeah,
I heard a story that I think it was from Jim Carrey himself that Tommy Lee Jones, fairly serious person on set, and he said that I think what he is saying, if I'm misquoting this, is that more often than not, Tommy Lee Jones was saying, "Get that fucker away from me."
Really?
He just didn't get what he was doing.
Enough, and I wrote this down, the best scenes in the film are whenever Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey are together.
Yeah, apparently,
really
according to Jim Carrey,
on the screen.
According to Jim Carrey, he got the impression, or maybe it wasn't an impression, he probably directly said it, but apparently Tommy Lee Jones just didn't get him.
Right.
Did not get him at all, and he was like, get him away from me.
Yeah.
Mad.
And Val Kilmer's kind of plays it straight, basically, made kind of as Batman is, I suppose. I did read up afterwards why he didn't carry on and do it when George Clooney took over, but part of the reason was the suit, apparently. He didn't like wearing the suit. And when he was on set with everybody else, because he couldn't take the suit off, he couldn't hear what everybody was saying, so he didn't feel involved in the film with the rest of the cast.
Okay.
And kind of got the face on and kind of bailed for the one after. But yeah, it's worth watching again. I nearly turned it off half an hour, 45 minutes in, because it's so loud and it's so constant. There isn't a single scene in the film that doesn't have score backing it up.
Right.
There's music
Danny
kind of
Elfman.
all the way through it. It's not Danny Elfman. It's,
Is it not?
No, it's I can't remember now, but it's Danny Elfman-esque.
Okay.
I think they used some of the music from the previous films. But then I stuck with it, and actually in the end I quite enjoyed it, and more nostalgic reasons, I guess, than anything else.
Yeah, nice.
And that's everything I watched.
Yeah, I think I watched a few bits, but like my memory's just really terrible at the minute. But yeah, so where are we going from now?
Do you want to close us down? I think this is the end of the
Okay.
main episode.
So that is our first official episode, guys. So can you like, follow, subscribe, give us your blood type, your comment underneath, particularly anything like your top 3 scary moments. Also, if you want to let us know what top 3 we should do next time. But yeah, anything really. If you just want to have a little chat with us, put it in there.
And we should say that also, so aside from the main episode, we're doing a retro review episode.
Yes.
So this main episode that you're watching now, they're out every month. And then also we're going to do a retro review episode on a particular film that'll also be out every month. So in theory, every couple of weeks, you should get something fairly chunky from us. So keep an eye out for that as well.
All right. All right, guys. Catch you on the next one.
Thank you very much.